Good evening, dear travelers, and welcome back to Snug as a Bug. I am Atticus, your guide for tonight's journey through the ancient Greek world of myths and legends. Settle into the comfort of your bed. Let your body sink into the softness beneath you and gently release the weight of the day with a slow, deep breath in and out. You are safe, calm, and ready to embark on a journey through time.
Tonight, we will witness the breathtaking birth of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, war, and strategy, as she emerges fully formed from the very mind of Zeus, her father, and the king of the gods. This tale unfolds in the celestial halls of Mount Olympus, where the divine balance of power is shaken by an excruciating pain that plagues the mighty ruler. As Zeus's torment reaches its peak, a strike from Hephaestus's hammer splits the heavens, and from the radiant burst of divine energy, Athena steps forth, armored in brilliance, wielding a spear of destiny, and bearing the wisdom of the cosmos in her storm-gray eyes. This is a tale of divine destiny, power, and wisdom. This is the legend of Athena, the warrior goddess who would shape the fate of gods and men for eternity.
Before we immerse ourselves in the legendary tales of gods and heroes, let's take a moment to fully relax and unwind. Gently close your eyes and allow your body to settle, feeling the soft embrace of your bed beneath you. Take a long, slow inhale, and then a deep exhale, releasing any lingering tension with your breath. With each cycle of breath, your body grows lighter, your mind becomes still, and your heart beats in a calm, steady rhythm. Imagine now that you are standing on a quiet hill at dusk, overlooking the rolling fields of ancient Greece. The warm breeze carries the scent of olive trees, and the distant murmur of the sea echoes faintly in the background. Above you, the night sky stretches wide, a canvas of deep indigo dotted with shimmering stars. Each star holds a story, a tale whispered by the gods themselves, waiting to be heard. Feel the soft grass beneath your feet, cool and comforting. As you look out over the horizon, the sky is bathed in the golden glow of twilight, and the world around you is still, peaceful, and timeless. The air is filled with a sense of magic, as though the very land is alive with ancient energy. As you stand here, allow yourself to become one with this ancient world. Feel the gentle pulse of the earth beneath you, steady and eternal. You are safe, cradled by the calm of the night and the deep history that surrounds you. Now, as you breathe deeply, feel yourself being drawn into the world of myth. The stories are waiting to unfold, to carry you on a journey through the realms of gods and mortals, of heroes and legends. You are ready to begin, ready to hear the tales that have echoed through time. Let go of the world around you and allow these ancient myths to carry you into a deep, peaceful sleep. The Birth of Athena, Chapter 1. The Tension of Olympus. In the heart of Olympus, where the clouds rested like delicate blankets over the peaks, the gods stirred restlessly in their eternal paradise. Olympus was a world untouched by time, its rivers running with the clearest waters, its groves filled with the whispering of ancient oaks, and its golden halls glowing beneath the eternal sun. Yet, despite the beauty of this divine domain, a sense of unease had settled like a fog over the gods. Zeus, the king of the gods, stood at the edge of his palace, staring out into the horizon. His strong frame, normally filled with the energy of command and power, seemed to sag under an invisible weight. The winds, usually calm and gentle on Olympus, now carried with them a subtle disquiet, as though even nature itself sensed the disturbance brewing within the divine realm. Zeus's sharp blue eyes scanned the skies, but his mind was elsewhere. Something was wrong. He could feel it in the depths of his being, like a shadow creeping ever closer. It wasn't an enemy approaching the gates of Olympus, no army of titans, no rebellion from within. No, this was something far more intimate and unnerving, a force that resided within himself. He had felt this way only once before during the war against the Titans, when he had seized control of the cosmos. Then, as now, he had known that the fates were weaving something significant into the tapestry of time. The prophecy, the ancient words whispered by the fates, the Moirai, haunted his thoughts. They had foretold of a child born from his own flesh, a child who would not overthrow him but would possess a power unlike any other. Wisdom that could surpass even his mighty thunderbolt. Zeus had heard many prophecies in his time, and not all had come to pass, but the words of the fates were never to be taken lightly. In the cool shadows of the golden pillars that lined the palace halls, Hera watched Zeus from afar. Her eyes, dark and calculating, followed his every movement. She was no stranger to his troubles. As queen of the gods, Hera had long been aware of the pressures Zeus faced, though she rarely showed sympathy. She had fought her battles alongside him, ruling over the cosmos and ensuring the balance of power remained in their favor. But now, something felt different. Hera's lips pressed into a thin line as she thought back to the many indiscretions of her husband, his countless affairs with mortal women, nymphs, and even goddesses. Every new child born to Zeus carried with it the potential for disruption, and Hera had long feared the day when one of his offspring might rise to challenge them. But this was no mere affair, no scandalous love child. This was something more profound, something born from the very essence of Zeus's divine power. As the goddesses of Olympus gathered in the gardens, their voices soft and filled with the music of laughter, Hera remained silent, her thoughts turning over the possibilities. Could this child be the one to fulfill the prophecy? What did it mean for her place as queen if a new power emerged, a power born not of passion or lust, but of wisdom? Beyond the palace, in the sacred groves and hidden temples, the whispers of the gods grew louder. Poseidon, the lord of the seas, felt the unease ripple through the waters of the oceans far below. In the depths of Tartarus, Hades, the ruler of the underworld, sensed a shift in the balance of life and death. Even the goddesses who tended to the hearth and home, like Hestia, could feel the disturbance in the cosmic order. But for all their whispers and glances, none could truly know the depth of Zeus's concern. Only he knew the full extent of the prophecy, and only he carried the burden of what was to come. Standing alone atop the highest balcony of Olympus, he clenched his fists, trying to push away the thoughts of what might soon emerge. But the unease remained, like a splinter lodged deep within his mind. As the hours passed, Zeus found no solace. The sunlight, which bathed the divine city in warmth and golden light, seemed too bright, too sharp. The colors of the gardens, once so vivid and comforting, felt overwhelming. His senses were heightened, each breath a reminder of the tension coiling tighter within him. And then, as if the very heavens sensed his distress, the first twinge of pain lanced through his skull. It was sharp but brief, like a sudden gust of wind that disappears before one can register it fully. Zeus winced, but said nothing. shaking his head to clear the sensation. He had known battles that raged for centuries, had borne the weight of the cosmos on his shoulders, and had wielded the thunderbolt against countless foes. This was nothing, he told himself, yet deep down, Zeus knew it was only the beginning. Chapter 2. Zeus's Dreadful Pain. As the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, casting long shadows over Olympus, Zeus retreated to the inner sanctum of his palace. It was a place of solitude, a vast hall lined with towering columns that reached toward the sky. Here, in the quietest corner of Olympus, he hoped to find peace, to escape the nagging sense of foreboding that gnawed at his mind. But the pain returned, stronger this time, and it pulsed with a rhythm that matched the beating of his heart. Zeus clenched his jaw, his hands instinctively gripping the arms of his throne. The ache was no longer a mere inconvenience. It had grown into something far more sinister, a relentless pressure that seemed to spread like wildfire across his temples. Hera, ever watchful, noticed the strain in Zeus's posture. She approached him cautiously, her footsteps barely audible on the marble floor. "Zeus," she said, her voice low but edged with concern, "what is happening? You have been distant for days." Zeus waved her off, unwilling to admit the depth of his discomfort. "It is nothing, Hera, a mere headache." But even as he spoke, the pain surged again, this time with a force that made him gasp. Zeus, the unshakable ruler of Olympus, felt his vision blur momentarily. It was as if something within him was clawing its way out, demanding to be released. Hera's eyes narrowed. She had seen Zeus face titans, monsters, and rebellions without flinching, yet now he seemed vulnerable, almost human in his suffering. "It is not nothing," Hera insisted, stepping closer. This is something more." Zeus closed his eyes, trying to block out the world around him. He focused on the rhythmic pounding in his skull, the way it ebbed and flowed like the tide. With each wave of pain, he felt something else, something stirring beneath the surface, a presence that was both foreign and familiar. He could no longer deny it. This was the prophecy unfolding. This was the child. For centuries, Zeus had ruled with unmatched power, his reign unchallenged. But now he was faced with something he could not control. The fates had woven their threads long ago, and now those threads were tightening around him. In the farthest corner of the hall, a flicker of firelight appeared, accompanied by the soft clanging of metal on metal. Hephaestus, the god of the forge, had arrived. His muscular form, scarred and soot-covered from his work in the depths of Olympus, moved with surprising grace as he approached his father. "I was summoned," Hephaestus said, his voice gruff but respectful. His sharp eyes flicked to Zeus, and he immediately noticed the strain etched into his father's features. "Yes," Zeus replied, his voice tight with pain. "I need your help, Hephaestus. There is something inside me, something that must be released." Hephaestus studied Zeus for a moment, his mind already turning over the possibilities. As the god of fire and craftsmanship, he had seen the creation of many things, both beautiful and terrible. He had forged the weapons of the gods, crafted armor that could withstand the might of titans, and yet this was something new, something that required more than mere skill with a hammer. Zeus's pain was now unbearable. His body trembled, his breath coming in short, labored gasps. The other gods, sensing the growing tension, began to gather outside the hall, their whispers filling the air like the rustling of leaves in a storm. "Hephaestus!" Zeus groaned, his voice thick with desperation. "I can bear it no longer." Hephaestus nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He knew that whatever was inside Zeus had to be freed. If not, the consequences could be catastrophic. With a swift motion, he called forth his hammer, its surface gleaming with a molten glow. The hammer of Hephaestus was no ordinary tool. Forged in the heart of Olympus, it had the power to shape not only metal, but also the very fabric of the divine. It had been used to craft weapons that could cut through time itself and shields that could repel the darkest of curses. And now it would be used to release whatever was trapped within Zeus. The gods, now gathered at the entrance of the hall, watched in breathless silence. Even Ares, the god of war, stood still, his usual bravado replaced by a deep sense of unease. They could all feel it, the power building within Zeus, the air crackling with energy. Hephaestus raised the hammer high above his head, his muscles tensing as he prepared to strike. The room was filled with a deafening silence, the tension so thick it seemed to choke the very breath from the gods. And then, with one swift motion, Hephaestus brought the hammer down. Chapter 3: The Birth of the Goddess. The sound of Hephaestus's hammer striking Zeus's head echoed through Olympus like the thunderclap before a storm. The impact was swift, powerful, yet controlled. As if Hephaestus had calculated every ounce of force necessary to free what was trapped within the king of gods. In that instant, time seemed to slow. The air around Zeus shimmered with a golden light, and for a brief moment, the gods could only watch in awe as the light intensified, expanding outward in a burst of energy that filled the hall with warmth and brilliance. It was not the harsh, blinding light of the sun, but rather a soft, radiant glow, like the first rays of dawn breaking over the horizon after a long, dark night. And from that light, she emerged, Athena, fully grown, fully armored, and fully divine. Her form rose gracefully from the cleft in Zeus's head, as if she had always been there, waiting patiently for the right moment to appear. Her armor, gleaming silver and gold, caught the light and reflected it in dazzling patterns across the marble floors. A long, flowing cloak of white trailed behind her, rippling softly as she stepped forward into the hall. In one hand she held a spear, its tip sharp and gleaming with an ethereal glow. In the other she carried a shield, emblazoned with intricate designs that told stories of battles won and wisdom gained. Her eyes, deep and clear, were filled with both strength and serenity, as if she held the knowledge of the universe within her gaze. The gods stared in silent reverence. None dared to speak, for they knew they were witnessing something extraordinary, something that had never been seen before and would never be seen again. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, had been born. Zeus, still reeling from the release of the energy within him, slowly rose from his throne. His head no longer pounded with pain, but he felt a strange sense of emptiness where Athena had once been. Yet, as he looked upon his daughter, he knew that she was not a loss, but a gift, a manifestation of his own power, his own wisdom, made flesh. "Athena," he said, his voice steady but filled with awe, "you are my child, born of my mind and soul. You are a force unlike any other, a goddess of wisdom, of war, of strategy and reason." Athena stepped forward, her gaze meeting her father's. Though she was newly born, there was an ancientness to her, a timelessness that spoke of knowledge far beyond her years. "I am Athena," she said, her voice calm and assured, like the gentle whisper of a breeze through the olive trees. "I am born of wisdom, destined to guide both gods and mortals in the ways of reason and strength. Her words echoed through the hall, and as they did, the gods began to stir. Slowly, one by one, they bowed before her, acknowledging her as their equal, their sister, their divine guide. Even Ares, the god of war, who had long prided himself on his unmatched prowess in battle, felt a sense of awe as he looked upon Athena. There was something in her presence, something that commanded not just respect, but reverence. She was not a warrior driven by rage or bloodlust, but by strategy, by intellect, by the wisdom to know when to fight and when to hold back. As the light surrounding Athena began to fade, she turned her gaze toward the world below, toward the mortals who walked the earth, unaware of the divine drama unfolding above them. She could feel their struggles, their desires, their need for guidance, and she knew that her role among the gods was not just to rule, but to teach, to lead, to bring wisdom to a world that so desperately needed it. Chapter 4. Athena's First Breath. The moment of Athena's birth was a turning point not only for the gods, but for the cosmos itself. Her presence, though new, carried with it an air of inevitability, as if the universe had always been waiting for her to emerge from the mind of Zeus. As the light around her faded, Athena stood tall and serene, surveying the halls of Olympus with calm detachment. She did not rush forward to claim her place, nor did she revel in the astonished gazes of her fellow gods. Instead, she simply breathed, slow, deliberate breaths that seemed to steady the very air around her. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, moved across the faces of the gods, who now regarded her with a mixture of awe and respect. There was Hera, her stepmother, who watched with an expression that was unreadable. Was it pride? Jealousy? Perhaps a little of both. Poseidon, lord of the seas, stood nearby, his trident in hand, his gaze contemplative as if weighing the implications of Athena's arrival. And then there was Ares, the god of war, who looked at her with barely concealed curiosity, perhaps even a hint of challenge in his eyes. But Athena paid them little mind. Her focus was not on proving herself, for she needed no validation. She was born fully realized, with knowledge and power already flowing through her veins. What mattered to her now was understanding her role in this divine order, where she fit, what she would bring to the world of gods and men. Zeus, still regaining his strength after the ordeal of her birth, approached her. His usual air of dominance was softened, replaced by a kind of paternal pride. Athena regarded him with the same calm detachment she had shown to the other gods, but there was an undeniable bond between them. She was, after all, his creation, born not of flesh, but of thought, of divine intellect. "Father," she said, her voice as steady as her gaze, "I understand my place now." Zeus nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "And what place is that, my daughter?" Athena's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, though it held no arrogance, only certainty. "I am the goddess of wisdom and war, but my war is not fought with brute force alone. It is a war of strategy, of intellect, of reason. I will guide both gods and mortals, not with the sword, but with the mind." The words hung in the air for a moment, and Zeus found himself nodding once more, impressed by her clarity of purpose. It was true. Athena was unlike any other god. She was born not of desire or ambition, but of thought, of wisdom distilled into its purest form. "And what of the world below?" Zeus asked, gesturing to the earth far beneath them. "What will you bring to the mortals who look to us for guidance?" Athena's gaze shifted to the horizon, where the clouds parted to reveal the mortal realm. From her vantage point, she could see the cities of men, their temples, their homes, their fields of wheat swaying gently in the breeze. She could feel their struggles, their hopes, their fears. Mortals were fragile, fleeting creatures, but they were also capable of great things if given the right guidance. "I will bring them wisdom," Athena said softly. "I will teach them the value of knowledge, of strategy, of peace over conflict. I will show them that true strength lies not in the sword, but in the mind that wields it." Zeus watched her closely, sensing the depth of her conviction. "And war? Will you lead them in battle as well?" Athena turned to him, her expression unchanging. "Yes, but I will lead them with wisdom. I will teach them to fight not out of hatred or greed, but out of necessity. War should be the last resort, not the first." Her words struck a chord with Zeus. He had waged countless battles in his time, many of them fueled by anger, pride, or a desire to maintain his rule. But Athena's approach was different. She saw war as a tool to be used sparingly, only when all other options had been exhausted. "Very well," Zeus said at last, his voice filled with approval. "You are indeed my daughter, Athena, and you will be a great goddess, both to the gods and to the mortals below." Athena bowed her head in acknowledgement, though there was no sense of submission in the gesture. She was equal to her father now, her place among the gods secure. As Zeus turned to address the other gods, who had been watching the exchange in silence, Athena remained where she stood, her gaze once again focused on the world below. She could already feel the pull of her destiny, the weight of the wisdom she would bring to both Olympus and the earth. And though she had only just taken her first breath, Athena knew that her journey was just beginning. Chapter 5. The Wisdom of Athena. It wasn't long before Athena's wisdom was put to the test. The gods of Olympus, for all their grandeur and power, were a quarrelsome bunch. Their divine immortality did little to temper their egos, and disputes often flared up over matters that, to a mortal eye, might seem trivial. Yet, to the gods, these quarrels were serious, and the outcomes often had far-reaching consequences. On this particular day, the quarrel was between Ares, the god of war, and Hera, the queen of the gods. Their voices rang out through the halls of Olympus, echoing off the marble walls and filling the air with tension. "You meddle in things you do not understand!" Ares roared, his eyes blazing with fury. "War is my domain, not yours!" Hera, ever poised and regal, did not back down. "I meddle where I must, Ares. You would have the mortals destroy themselves with your endless thirst for bloodshed. Someone must bring reason to your madness." The argument had drawn the attention of the other gods, who now stood at the edges of the hall, watching with interest. It was not uncommon for Ares to clash with the other gods. His temper was legendary, and his love for conflict often put him at odds with those who preferred peace. But this time, the tension seemed different, more charged. Athena, who had been observing from a distance, stepped forward. Her presence immediately commanded the attention of the room, though she made no effort to impose herself. She moved with a calmness that contrasted sharply with the heated emotions swirling around her. "Ares," she said, her voice steady and measured, "Hera is not your enemy. She seeks only to temper your actions with reason, as any ruler should." Ares turned to her, his expression darkening. "And what would you know of war, Athena? You who have just taken your first steps in Olympus?" Athena met his gaze without flinching. There was no anger in her eyes, no trace of the fire that burned within Ares. Instead, there was only calm certainty. "I know that war, when waged without wisdom, leads only to destruction," she said. "Strength without strategy is nothing more than brute force, and brute force without purpose is chaos." Ares's scowl deepened, but he said nothing, unable to find a retort. Athena's words, though spoken softly, carried a weight that silenced the room. Hera, sensing an opportunity to de-escalate the situation, spoke up. "Athena is right, Ares. We are not here to destroy the mortals, but to guide them. War has its place, but so does peace." Ares gritted his teeth, his pride clearly wounded, but even he could not deny the truth of their words. With a frustrated grunt, he turned on his heel and stormed out of the hall, leaving behind a silence that was almost palpable. Athena watched him go, her expression unreadable. She knew that Ares' anger was not truly directed at her or Hera. It was born of his own frustration, his own inability to see beyond the immediate satisfaction of battle. But that was the nature of Ares. He was a god of war, and his mind was attuned to conflict. The other gods, who had been watching the exchange with keen interest, began to murmur among themselves. Athena's wisdom had not only diffused a potentially explosive situation, but had also revealed her as a force to be reckoned with, a goddess who could stand her ground even against the fiery temper of Ares. Zeus, who had been watching from his throne, smiled with approval. "Athena speaks wisely," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "Let us heed her counsel." And so the quarrel ended, not with violence or force, but with the wisdom of a goddess who understood the value of reason over rage. Chapter 6. Athena's Gifts to Mankind. Athena's wisdom was not limited to the gods alone. She looked upon the world of mortals with a deep sense of responsibility, for she understood that her role was not just to guide the divine, but also to bring enlightenment to those who walked the earth. The mortal realm was a place of great potential, but also great struggle. Humans were fragile beings, prone to fear and ignorance, and their short lives were often filled with hardship. Yet despite their flaws, Athena saw something remarkable in them, a capacity for growth, for learning, for building a better world if given the right guidance. And so Athena descended from Olympus, her feet touching the earth for the first time. She traveled across the land, observing the ways of mortals, their cities, their fields, their daily struggles. She saw the warriors who fought in endless battles, the farmers who toiled under the sun, the artisans who crafted with skill and care. And she saw the leaders, the rulers, who often made decisions driven by fear or greed rather than wisdom. In the great city of Athens, Athena found a people who were eager for knowledge, who valued intellect and innovation. But they lacked a guiding force, a symbol to unite them, to inspire them to greatness. It was here, in the heart of Athens, that Athena decided to bestow her first great gift to mankind. Standing before the people of Athens, her presence commanding yet serene, Athena raised her spear high into the air. With a single deliberate motion, she struck the ground, and from the spot where her spear touched, a tree began to grow. It was an olive tree, its branches spreading wide, its leaves glimmering in the sunlight. The people of Athens watched in awe as the tree took root, its presence both calming and powerful. "This is my gift to you," Athena said, her voice carrying across the city. "The olive tree will bring you peace, prosperity, and wisdom. Its fruit will nourish you, its oil will light your homes, and its wood will build your cities. But more than that, it will be a symbol of the wisdom that must guide your actions, both in times of peace and in times of conflict. The people, overwhelmed by the goddess's generosity, fell to their knees in gratitude. They named their city in her honor, and the olive tree became a symbol of their bond with Athena, a symbol of the wisdom she had brought to their lives. But Athena's gifts did not end there. She traveled across the land, offering guidance to those who sought it, teaching the value of strategy and intellect over brute force. She showed the people how to build strong cities, how to govern with reason and fairness, and how to resolve conflicts through diplomacy rather than war. Under her guidance, Athens flourished, becoming a beacon of knowledge and culture, a city that valued wisdom above all else. And though the people still faced challenges and hardships, they knew that Athena was watching over them, guiding them with her wisdom and strength. Chapter 7. Athena's Role in War. Though she was the goddess of wisdom, Athena was also a warrior, and her prowess in battle was unmatched. One day, as she stood upon the training grounds of Olympus, watching the gods practice their skills, Ares approached her, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of curiosity and challenge. "Sister," Ares said, his voice thick with pride, "you speak much of wisdom, but what of battle? Do you fight as well as you think?" Athena turned to him, her expression calm and measured. She could see the challenge in his eyes, the desire to prove himself once more as the god of war. But Athena did not need to prove anything. She knew her strength, and she knew that true power lay not in the might of the sword, but in the mind that wielded it. "I do not fight for the sake of fighting, Ares," Athena said. "But if you wish to test my skill, I will oblige." Ares grinned, clearly eager for the challenge. The other gods, sensing a spectacle, began to gather around the training grounds, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Athena stepped forward, her spear gleaming in the divine light. She held it with ease, her movements fluid and graceful, as if the weapon was an extension of her own body. Ares, with his muscular frame and fiery temper, brandished his sword, the blade catching the light in a dazzling display. The two gods faced each other, their eyes locked in a silent exchange. Ares, ever the aggressor, made the first move. He charged at Athena with a roar, his sword slicing through the air with deadly intent. But Athena, ever the strategist, moved with precision and speed. She sidestepped his attack with ease, her spear held firmly in her grip as she watched for his next move. Ares, frustrated by her evasion, attacked again, this time with more force. His sword clanged against her shield, but Athena remained steady, her expression unchanging. She did not fight with rage or desperation as Ares did. Instead, she fought with strategy, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As Ares lunged forward once more, Athena saw her opening. With a swift, calculated motion, she parried his blow and spun her spear in a wide arc, knocking his sword from his hand. The weapon clattered to the ground, and Ares, caught off guard, stumbled back. Athena did not press the advantage. Instead, she lowered her spear and stepped back, her eyes calm and steady. "You see, Ares," she said, her voice as measured as ever, "strength alone is not enough. It is the mind that wins battles, not the sword." Ares, though clearly frustrated by his defeat, could not argue with her logic. He picked up his sword, his expression a mixture of grudging respect and lingering pride. The other gods, who had been watching in silence, began to murmur among themselves. Athena's victory had not only proven her skill in battle, but had also demonstrated the power of wisdom over brute force. Zeus, watching from his throne, smiled with approval. Athena had once again shown that her role as a goddess was not just to fight, but to think, to strategize, to bring order and reason to the chaos of war. Chapter 8. The foreshadowing of Athena's future. As the years passed, Athena's reputation as both a wise counselor and a fierce warrior grew. She became a central figure in the lives of both gods and mortals, her wisdom sought by all who desired guidance. Yet her story was far from over. Whispers among the gods spoke of future conflicts, of great wars that would test even Athena's wisdom. The Trojan War in particular loomed on the horizon, a conflict that would see Athena play a pivotal role. But for now, Athena stood tall, her gaze fixed on the horizon, knowing that her journey had only just begun. The gods, too, knew that the tale of Athena was but the beginning. More stories, more adventures awaited them in the chapters to come. And as the sun set over Olympus, casting long shadows across the halls of the gods, they knew that the next story would soon unfold.
Farewell, dear traveler. Your journey may pause for now, but the echoes of our adventures linger like stardust on the wind. Until our paths cross again in another chapter of mystery and wonder, may your dreams be filled with magic and your heart ever brave.